Hi everyone, my name is Joshua Iguatu. I'm your host for the My Words Matters podcast, and today, who am I gathered with?
Nora Servo.
Nora. Well, Nora, nice to meet you. So start me off. How's your day been?
Great morning. Little hectic, always hectic, but the dog always has something to do with the dog. So
I feel like the dog is just a common excuse, or I guess a common problem that always just happens, whether
yeah,
it's like running late for something or something always going on. I feel like dogs are, for some reason, like always involved.
yeah.
It's always
I leave the apartment and study in the library because of the dog.
fair. Sometimes you have to get, your peace and quiet. Gotta like be able to like
Yeah.
control what you're doing around here.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 43, so obviously
Okay.
a very non-traditional student.
Okay.
I have two daughters. They're 17 and 20. Jocelyn is my 20-year-old and Brinley is my 17-year-old.
Gotcha.
So they live in Florida, in Panama City. Lucky them.
Panama is that's a fun time right there.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
They just complain about the traffic.
Understandable.
Yeah. They're like, I wish these people would go home.
I don't think people there really sleep that often.
No.
Okay.
No. And then I'm married, and so I've been married since April. And
Congrats.
Thank you. So that's a little bit about me. And I have a dog, and he's a rescue dog, and his name is
Okay.
Oliver.
Okay, nice.
And
How
he's
did
about
you
12.
How'd you meet Oliver? How did that process work?
So I have never had a pet in childhood,
Okay.
and then I never had a pet as an adult. And so one day, my daughter, the oldest one, we were in the car, and I was like, "Hey, I think I want to go by the pound." And she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." So he was just like the little scrappy, like little just rough looking dog, but he just something. I was like, that's the dog. And
He had
so,
that look
yeah,
to him, and you're
just-
like, okay.
He's the one. So he's like a little, like 12-pound miniature poodle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you couldn't really tell when I first got him because his hair was like some missing and this and that. So it took about 3 months to get him up to par.
Okay, got you. Well, that's nice. Glad to hear it. So I guess let's start off with, how did you get to Tennessee Tech? What promoted you to come to college or go to college? Like, how did that start?
So I went to college, community college, when I was younger, like traditional age, 18.
Okay.
I started at community college. And then I got pregnant at 22. So
Okay.
I had to work and,
Mm-hmm.
ended up getting married, having another kid. So I always worked as a medical biller, but I
Okay.
always knew that I wanted to go back to college. And I tried a few times, but it just didn't work out. Just, family really kind of takes priority. So, but in 2014, I had an experience where I was around a lot of women who had eating disorders in a residential treatment center setting. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy how
Mm-hmm.
eating disorders hit every demographic. Like, it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
your race is. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is, your ethnicity. Everybody gets eating disorders.
Yeah.
And the more I learned about how high the fatality, the mortality rate is for eating disorders, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a registered dietitian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So in 2016, I came to Tech and I did a tour and, like all of that kind of stuff. I knew that this is where I wanted to be, but the time was just not right.
Okay.
So in 2016, my daughter I had a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. So I knew I still had, get these kids out the door sort of thing. So I went back to college when my oldest was a senior. So that was during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So I had them both at home, both doing
Okay.
school online.
Okay.
Yeah. And I finished my associate's degree from Columbia State, where I started originally.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And so I did that in May of 21, and I graduated on May 8th, and my daughter graduated on May 17th, and my goal was to get my associate's before she got her high school diploma.
Oh, I like it right there. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had been preparing her to live on her own, and I was planning to move to Cookeville, and Brinley moved to Florida with her dad. So I moved to Cookeville in June of 21. I had gotten into Tennessee Tech finally, but I mean, it was a hard process. I had a low GPA and in community college, and so originally they said, no, we can't admit you. You have to do a holistic review.
Oh.
And I was like, wow. So that is like you have to write a letter sort of pleading your case to a committee.
I definitely think like that's definitely different, especially coming from your perspective. So you start off, you're in college, like at the age 18, 19, you stop, don't finish. And then first you're trying to come back like in your 40s. And then once you finish, you're like, they're not even really seeing the age, I guess, at that point. They're kind of looking, they're like, hey, this doesn't really add up. This isn't what we're looking for. So now you're having to sort of like fight back and show, no, I really want to be here. I think I should be here. So what else goes on inside that process of you trying to get admitted?
So I knew I wanted to be at Tennessee Tech. There are 8 colleges within Tennessee where you can get a nutrition and dietetics degree with what they call a DPD, a didactic in dietetics. So you need that that qualification or the signature of that certificate in order to apply to a dietetic internship to get to sit for your exam afterwards. So I knew that Tennessee Tech was the place. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna play the game. I'm gonna do what they want me to do and see how I can make myself like a good candidate.
There you go.
So I wrote the letter, so nervous. And so I got a phone call and from admissions, and they're like, okay, we had our meeting, the committee met, so we're going to let you in. And I'm like, oh, great. I was so excited. I was like, so this is before I moved, but I had already been planning on moving here. So I knew that I had to really stay on my P's and Q's. So I didn't know how it was going to be. I knew that most of the demographic was 18 to 22-year-old students. And
accurate.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? So I moved here. I was here for the summer. So it got me kind of acclimated to Cookeville before classes started. So, but I can say it was a little bit like culture shock when I first started classes because literally no one in my classes was over probably 21.
Understandable. How did that affect like your relationship with like both like students and professors?
So the professor part was so easy.
Okay.
Because most of the professors were my age. So that was really easy. Like we understood pop culture for each other. We got the references. I got all their jokes in class, all of those things. So that was the easy part was the professors. The classmates was really hard, like really hard. I felt sort of shut out. I don't know if they just didn't know how to react to having someone in their class that was their mother's age. So eventually I got enough courage to ask, like, is this weird for you? And they were like, yes, it's weird. And they're like, but now that we know you, it's not weird. So
you just really had to meet some sort of like common understanding because at the end of the day, everyone that's here is here for a degree.
Yes.
So since we have the same goal in mind, let's just figure out how to get there together. And then from there, you're able to start sort of like mingling and like building these relationships. So that's beautiful right there. Do you feel like there have been any other like major like setbacks with you coming back to college like at your age?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
So I took Anatomy and Physiology 2 during my first semester. So most nutrition majors take a combined course for Anatomy and Physiology that combines 1 and 2, but I had already taken 1 at community college. So I took 2 my first semester, and I failed.
Okay.
And it was
that happens.
shattering because you have to have a 3.0 to get into the DPD program that I was here for. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I just sort of, got my head together over Christmas break and was like, I'm taking this class again and I'm going to succeed. And so I was, talked to the professor a lot and he was very, very helpful. So Richard Perkle teaches that class.
Okay.
And so he and I are the same age, like literally the same year, like literally 4 days apart. So
wow.
Yeah. So we had a lot to talk about. He has kids. And so, but I think I finally figured out like his testing wasn't so much about you making the best grade. It was about teaching you things. It was the type of test that like made you go back and say, okay, I don't know how to do this. I've got to learn this concept. So, I mean, he has a whiteboard in his office and he will just draw what you're asking about to show you right there.
Okay.
So he's very available, has a lot of office hours. So I made a B the second
There we
time.
go. Congrats. Made it out.
Yes. So I pulled my GPA back up. So I think it was like a 2.7 or 2.5 the first semester. And now I have a 3.51.
Beautiful. Love the comeback story.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess you talked about earlier how you're able to really connect with the professors. How did you go about really finding a community here in Cookeville? Because you're coming from not living here and you're coming from not really being the age range that most people are here at college. So how were you able to get comfortable and like settle down?
So my faith community is here. So I was able to join in with that faith community and make friends that were, my age. And I also ended up making a friend who is a student at Tennessee Tech. She's
Nice.
An international student from India, and she's in the graduate program. And so we also go to church together. And so people kept saying, you guys need to talk. You guys need to talk. And so finally we did, and man, we just clicked.
There you go.
Yes. So she's great. She's 24, so she's still a lot younger than me. But we really she says I mother her. She says I have a mother in Tennessee.
Hey, that I think it's very funny. My mom, so I'm Nigerian and I'm like first generation like here in like the U.S.
Yeah.
And it's really funny how my mom like at her church, she was able to kind of like adopt like an older lady that almost treats her exactly like she would treat like her daughter.
Yeah.
And it's really funny how we've been able to like build such like the coolest like relationship with like her and her family just based off of that connection that they made through church. So I always think it's like a really cool thing because yes, like in some sense she kind of has like that motherly figure over her. And then at the same time they're also friends because they have like that common understanding. So that's always great to see.
Yeah.
So I'm also wondering how like was tech able to, I guess, help you like adapt to like your situation here? Was like administration at all like really helpful in like guiding you on like the right processes to get connected? Did you have to do all that research yourself?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't really feel like anybody guided me. I found out probably the second year I was here that there was a non-traditional student organization.
Okay.
So they're great. I don't get to meet with them in person a lot because it just doesn't work out. But we have a group me, and so a lot of us talk about things, that are pertinent to our situations. But the thing that helped me the most was joining Student Government Association.
Okay.
So,
Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I was in the library last December studying for finals with my friend Vanilla, and they were giving out food like muffins and
Yes. Actually, I remember
juice,
that. I was in there.
Yeah, and
Yes.
juice and hot cocoa and all these things and fruit. So I saw these little cards, and they were talking about joining SGA if you were interested, that you could email the president of SGA. So that was Addison Doris at the time.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so she's great. I emailed her. She was so responsive, even over break. And so I met her and the secretary, and we had a little interview. They had a little interview with me, and they appointed me to a position as a transfer senator.
Nice.
Yeah, so I started last spring in SGA, and it was amazing. I loved it. I got to know so many people on a different level.
Because I feel like in some sense SGA is kind of like the face of like the student body. So you're just really able to connect with everyone because first you're representing us as students, but you're able to just meet so many people and interact with so many people.
Yeah.
So that's definitely kind of like a great way to help accelerate you to building all sorts of connections here at Tech. So that's beautiful to hear.
So I really, really enjoyed it. And even, so I had a really big setback in mid-January through March, because I got really sick.
Okay.
So I had mono, the flu, bronchitis, pneumonia, and then I was in the emergency room with pneumonia, and they're like, oh, you have COVID? So I had to withdraw from my courses, but I still had to stay enrolled because I live in campus housing.
Okay.
So for anybody who doesn't know, if you have to withdraw from your classes, you have to move out of campus housing
Okay.
because you're a liability.
So what did you use to stay enrolled even though you withdrawed from your
So
classes?
the Accessible Education Center, the AEC, Disability Services, I utilize them because I have ADHD. So they were able to help me get into a LIST class, so an interdisciplinary studies class.
Okay.
So it was just an afternoon seminar, and it was 1 credit hour, but it kept me in my apartment at Tech Village. So that was really good.
Nice.
But it set me back an entire year in my dietetics program.
Okay.
Because
so
yeah.
how does that work? Like how many years does it take for you to get into the program?
So now I am in the didactic for dietetics program, like the DPD. But traditionally, it should have taken me about 2 years to finish. But it's already been 2 years because I had to take a lot of prerequisite science courses. Because when I was in community college, I was studying accounting, which is like a total shift.
Yep, I agree.
A big shift. So I kind of feel like instead of starting as a junior, I started as a sophomore.
Okay.
Because I still had to take Chem 1, Chem 2, and organic chemistry.
Yeah, don't get me started on those classes. I took Chem 1, and I was very happy that was the last piece of chemistry I had to take. So we're happy that we made it through.
I actually loved organic chemistry.
Okay. Who's your professor?
Janet Kuntz.
Okay, I don't think I've heard
She's amazing. She's also my age.
Okay.
Yeah, my Chem 1 and Chem 2 teacher, Anne-Marie Carrick, is also my age.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're all 43, the 4 of us. Like plenty of things to talk about, you know?
There you go. So how do you feel like your personal life combats with like your school life?
I sometimes feel like it's hard because you have to do a lot of volunteer work in order to get into a graduate degree program for dietetics. You have to have 300 hours.
Okay.
So I volunteer at the Tech Village food pantry a lot, and I've been doing that for almost the whole time I've been here. So that's been really good. I love it. Just like interacting with the students. Just like a lot of the students who come to the food pantry are international students or graduate students, like lots of things. Because I didn't realize until I met Vanilla that there are so many limitations on international students with their visa. Like they can only work on campus, those types of things. So it's really hard, especially some of them have families. And so I think that's a really hard situation to be in.
It is very unfortunate. I definitely understand. First off, the process to get a visa is just extremely difficult, whether you're coming for school, coming for work, just getting the visa to be here in like the U.S. or like being in like a different country is difficult. And then with all those limitations, you're almost like, man, are these people like against me a little bit? Right. I'm just trying to like succeed, and then you go into all these different issues. So I understand it for sure.
Yeah, so I also have a job on campus. I'm a wellness ambassador for Tennessee Tech, and that's a new program they started last academic year, and there were 4 of us last academic year in the whole university, and now we have 8. So it's really good. Like we do a lot of programming for like the Res Life, and just like teaching them things about wellness or nutrition, just because it's hard. I understand that it's hard to be 18 and like you're away from your family and you don't know how to shop and you don't know how to do laundry and you don't know all these things that maybe your parents didn't have time to teach you or whatever, or you weren't interested in learning.
Yeah, that happens. That one happens a lot. That actually happens, I guess, more than I expect, which you kind of learn that. So my freshman year, grateful for my roommate. Me and him had a very mutual understanding on like the way life works, I guess. And then some of the friends I made, I realized that they were having like roommates like the complete opposite. Like you never realize how everyone has like a different upbringing, and because of that, they know or don't know certain things. So I felt like I already understood how to get groceries, how to like prep meals, how to do laundry, and then I'm realizing like one of my friends, like, he doesn't know how to, like, iron his shirt. And I'm like, interesting. So, like, people are definitely coming from all sorts of backgrounds, and because of that influences like the knowledge that they have on just things that you need to like do to like survive in like everyday life.
And some of the other things we do is we partner with the Counseling Center, the AEC, Health Services, and the FIT. So
Nice.
we do things with all of those for like groups of people.
And
so.
this is through being a wellness ambassador?
Yes, through being
Got
a wellness
you.
ambassador. So it does, it actually counts toward my 300 hours. So
Beautiful.
that's really nice. We don't work a lot of hours in the week, but we do, you know, have office hours that are set. And then we do tabling and we do events with, you know, those agencies or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So I've been wondering, I guess, do you have any like suggestions or like tips in terms of, I guess, like the best way to get acclimated to school when you're like hitting school like later in like your stride instead of coming like straight out of like high school?
I think definitely like having a very candid conversation with your advisor about why you're here, what you want, and how they can help you get down that path, because my advisor is amazing.
There we go.
Yeah, Dr. Melinda Anderson. So she's the director of my program, and she's my advisor. I don't think I'd still be here if it wasn't for her, because I've literally sat down in her office and been like, I'm done. You know, like I
Throwing
quit.
in the towel, you're like, all right, enough
she's
of
like,
this.
No, you can do this. So she's very encouraging, and so that's been really great. Yeah.
That's good. I feel like I definitely think, do you have like any sort of like mentors or anyone in a sense that like outside of, I guess, like faculty at Tech have like really like pushed you and motivated you to stay through and like get your degree?
So I definitely have a mentor now. So I am going through the RD to B program.
Okay.
So they're a national program run by dietitians, and so they matched me with a mentor from the University of Wisconsin. And so I meet with her on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And so she's really just been teaching me so much about, you know, like real life being a dietitian and like how to manage your time and the things that you need to do and what kind of volunteer experience is important and all of those things. But kind of like back to your last question, I would say get involved.
Okay.
Like if you come to Tennessee Tech, get involved, because SGA helped me feel like I belonged at Tennessee Tech.
Okay.
So like I now feel like I'm part of it. Like I
There we
belong
go.
here because I'm doing something for, you know, my college, because I got that Senate position as a transfer senator, but you can only hold that for 1 year.
Okay.
So I had to campaign to get my spot for the College of Agriculture and Human Ecology.
So how does that process work when like you're campaigning? Like what are you doing?
So they have definitely like parameters, like you can like rules. You can't, you know, do certain things. Like you can't, of course, you can't like give things to people for their vote, you know, that type of thing.
It makes sense. Adds
It's
up.
kind of like you can talk to them about, you know, that you're running for Senate or whatever position you're running for. So what I did is I had several professors in the College of Agriculture and Human Ecology that I'd taken classes from that weren't necessarily in my nutrition program. So I went to those professors like Dr. Uphold, Dr. Sisk, Dr. Shipley, and I said, can I speak to your classes? Just like give me 5 minutes at the beginning or end of your class to talk to your students about why they should vote for me and how I will help them any way I can with any ideas they have. I will take that to SGA.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that process works. But so I got it.
There we go.
Got my seat. So
There
that was
you go.
really
Congrats.
nice. Yeah, thank you.
I guess one last thing, like before we begin to wrap up, do you think that other than I guess like the like original like I guess shock like when you got to Tech and started trying to like mingle with like your classmates, has there like I guess ever been any other like situation that you feel like I'm just like not really like fitting in? What do I do to like fix this sort of thing?
Like outside of Tech?
Well, I guess I wouldn't necessarily say outside of Tech, but I guess you can include Tech and like the community around Tech. So like I guess Cookeville, for example, since we're
Cookeville.
here.
I think just getting more involved at church, like,
Mm-hmm.
volunteering to help with things at church really helped me kind of feel more involved. And also,
Okay.
I had to kind of break out of my comfort zone and
Okay.
ask people to do things. Like,
Okay.
how do you want to hang out?
Mm-hmm.
So there is one person who is at least in their early 30s that's
Mm-hmm.
in my nutrition program. And so he and I would study together sometimes, and that really helped, like having somebody to study with.
Mm-hmm.
There was a young woman who was 20 that was in my organic chemistry class, and I said, hey, do you want to start studying for the exams together? And so we studied all semester together, and we would literally book out a room for 4 hours in the library and just study and talk and talk. So that really helped me so much to get to know a younger student and kind of see her perspective. She was an RA and
Okay.
different things like that. So, yeah, I really had to get out of my comfort zone.
Okay. I guess that's the biggest tip that we could take from today, because without doing that, you're never going to really be able to break through any barriers that are set, especially with like the stigma, like, oh, like what's going on here? I feel like almost like you're out of like place, but not really. We're all here for the same reason. So you
Yeah.
just kind of have to push through like a tiny bit harder to get someone else to see exactly where you're coming from. And then after that, everything's like all fine and dandy. So
Yeah, because I think sometimes we can have preconceptions about people
yes.
before we know them. I know I had that with a young woman that was in my nutrition courses. And once I talked to her and got to know her some, like on a one-on-one basis, I found out she's just really shy. It's not that she didn't like me or anything like that. She's just really shy. And so now we partner together on some things, and that's really been great for me.
Nice. Love to hear it. Well, I think that's all the time we have today. I just wanted to thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Nah, this has been fun, and hopefully we'll get to see you again in the future. But with that, I'd like to end the episode. Thank you for listening to My Words Matter podcast. This is your host, Josh, and I hope you have a good one.